Welcome to Psalms Layer by Layer, a project of Cambridge Digital Bible Research. I'm Elizabeth. This video introduces our top 3 poetic features for Psalm 150. For those who want to understand the poetic artistry of the Hebrew, this is the next best thing to knowing and studying Hebrew yourself. Psalm 150 we have titled Praise Him. You'll know why soon enough, because the psalm seems to use every means at its disposal to shout it out. The first feature is a poetic party. Verses 3 to 5 in Psalm 150 are a call to celebrate, but they're not just that. The words themselves embody a musical celebration in miniature. This party is complete with an opening horn blast, a victory dance, and even a climactic bang of cymbals for a grand finale. The first step in this party is signaling that there is an important event going on. The ram's horn, or shofar, was not actually a musical instrument. Its job was to let people know, far and wide, that something important was happening, often on a national scale. So this becomes the summons to join the party. The closing word, resounding, used more often of shouting, is closely associated with the horn, especially the people's response to an important announcement, such as the enthronement of a king. The dance is set to music, and it's a music of the words themselves. In some outstanding onomatopoeia, the actual words for some of the instruments sound like the instruments themselves. Tof is the word for drum, and the hollow sound of a drum, which accompanied victory dances. U in ugav is the sound of a wind instrument, and tss, tss is the sound of the cymbals, the tsil-tsilin. The cymbals are the loudest, both in terms of the instrument and the harshness of the word itself, tsil-tsilin. We have 2 kinds of cymbals in verse 5 to finish this party with a bang. We've tried to show this effect visually. As we hear, praise him with the blast of a horn, we can imagine a shofar blowing, announcing the beginning of the party. With praise him with lyre and lute, benevel v'kinor, we hear the soothing liquid sounds of stringed instruments. With praise him with drum and dance, you have the tof from a drum beat. With praise him with strings and flute, you have the u from the ugav, the flute. With praise him with loud cymbals, you have the first crash of tzitzilin. With praise him with resounding cymbals, you have the repeated crash, and your ears are ringing with all the noise. But for all the detail, everything is still poetically muted compared to the repeating and resounding praise him, which brings us to the second poetic feature. The effect is the actual embodiment, in the grammar and word choice particularly, of the idea of everything being oriented to a single goal, praising the Lord. The grammar of this psalm is repetitive, almost to the point of tedium. Every line here begins the same, with only slight variation on how God is referred to as Yah, God, or Him. Even with the many sounds of the poetic party, we can't miss the steady beat that unifies the psalm, the repeated refrain to praise Him. The grammatical repetition has a slight break, with the only variation on the imperative verb, but it's only a slight break, and it shares all the same meaning. The result is that the grammar for nearly every clause is almost identical, with only one verb repeated 13 times in only 2 forms. God is always the object, and the middle section varies only in the prepositional phrase used. The effect is that praising the Lord is indisputably more prominent than every other theme in the psalm. Our last feature may seem to compete with the idea of praise and praise alone, but not for long. This is the A to Z feature, the opening with a word with the first letter in the alphabet, and closing with a word with the last letter of the alphabet. Because the alphabet is a symbol of completeness, it associates the text with something complete. Psalm 1 starts with Aleph and ends with Tav, and there's some indication that Psalm 150 draws on the same feature, though not in quite the straightforward way that Psalm 1 does, however. This is a reminder of how Psalm 1 begins with a word beginning with Aleph, Ashrei, and closes with a word beginning with Tav, Tovev. There are no extra words. In Psalm 150, we see an Aleph Tav pattern, but it is not with the first and last words. It is early in the psalm and late in the psalm. Is this still valid? Note that, if it is valid, then we may have a small window into how the Hebrew poet worked. The one variation on the word praise enables a word beginning with tav, which means that variation is serving another poetic purpose, to suggest praising God from A to Z. But is there a real poetic feature here? When we look at what is outside the A to Z, we find something striking. There are the opening and closing hallelujahs, praise Yah, and before the green God, we have another hallelujah, praise. After the closing praise in blue, we have again Yah. This is the result. The poetic message is that praise covers everything from A to Z, but praise itself overflows what the alphabet has to offer. In ancient Hebrew culture, the threefold statement is the greatest superlative possible. In Isaiah, we have holy, holy, holy. Here, at the close of the Psalter, we have praise Yah, praise Yah, praise Yah. That's what the poetry of this psalm cares about, praising Him known by the Israelites as Yah. This has been the top poetic features for Psalm 150. All our videos are provided, free, thanks to donations. Visit cdbr.org to learn more. Thanks for watching.